look for ways to try to ease our minds, forced into a change. I guess it had to be this way. But do your best to try to stay away. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. So hold on to the love, don't you be afraid. There come a time when you will have your say. And don't forget to pray the Lord to keep us safe. We will live to fight another day. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of pride today. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. The day they closed the world, we all went outside, looking for the light. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of pride today. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming. The day they close the world.
Hey there, welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild, Love Coach Academy, and all of the other networks that we are live right now on. I am Debbie G, and we are here for a really special, super duper night with the extraordinary Love Coach Scott Catamas, who you guys, I know you know, love and recognize him because you've seen him on Saturday Night Live with so many great guests, and he is the founder of Love Coach Academy and my personal mentor, one of my favorite people in this world. My life would not even be what it is right now without this man. So Scott, welcome, and I'm excited.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show, Debbie. And yeah, you know, it's an incredible time on the planet right now. It's an absolutely incredible time. And for a lot of people, a lot of my clients and some of my friends, it's an extremely hard and difficult time. And that's why we decided to do this special show. Because I want to really provide right off the bat some important tips, tools, and practices to help people that are struggling. I think that the pressure of the pandemic, the economic uncertainty for a lot of people, health uncertainty for a lot of people, a lot of people's favorite forms of entertainment and distraction are not happening. And so that all adds up to a lot of pressure. And when there's pressure, cracks get bigger, fissures get bigger. And so people whose relationships are challenged, the challenges are getting much bigger. People who are struggling, the struggles are getting even harder. So that's why, we're here today to offer some of your best practices and some of mine.
I'm excited. It is truly the biggest opportunity in the world right now to do something different, to make a change and a shift in your life and your relationships. And I've been practicing these tools for a little over 3 years. I will continue to practice them. I'm always going to class because that is what is necessary. Practice makes it possible. I don't believe in perfect, so practice makes it possible. So tonight you guys are going to find some news. You're going to hear possibilities. And I'm encouraging you right now to start to take notes. Put your email addresses into the chat so that we can get you these wonderful tools directly to you. And I'm going to hand it now over to Scott. And do you want me to start with the 12 adjustments, or do you just want to talk and you can cue me when you're ready?
We'll get to the 12 adjustments a little bit later. I want to do another practice first.
Yep.
So thank you, WG, and thank you everybody for joining and watching and sharing it. I've been kind of looking down. I see a lot of people are already sharing it out. So that really means a lot. Thank you. So let's just start by taking a couple of breaths. And unless you're operating a motor vehicle or riding a bicycle, I'd like to invite everybody to just close their eyes for a moment. And let's tune into each other. And let's tune in, first of all, to ourselves. So closing our eyes and starting with breath. Taking some deep breaths. Recognizing that life is breath. Breath is precious, and we take it for granted. And recently we've had some big experiences to remind us globally how precious breath is. People who die from COVID died because they can't breathe. And of course, most of us watched many times perhaps that horrific video of George Floyd being murdered because he couldn't breathe. And so let's appreciate our breath. And as we breathe, we tune into our body, we slow down, we cut out all the distractions, and just let my voice gently guide you for a moment. As you breathe, I invite you to really drop into gratitude, first for your breath, and then gratitude for your beautiful body temple. How blessed we are to have these amazing body temples that are doing so many things to support us to enjoy life, to experience life, the senses, our connections, and to acknowledge whatever might be going on, because our body is always informing us. Our body tells us how we're feeling, what's going on. So taking time throughout the day to slow down and ask, how well resourced am I? How well resourced am I? Am I drinking enough water, eating enough food, getting enough rest? So asking all of you right now, how well resourced are you? There's no right or wrong answer. There's just what your body is informing you of. And then, are you carrying any worry or anxiety or stress? If you're not, hey, that's great. But if you are, most of us are, breathing, Just starting by reminding yourself, I am safe. Right now, I'm safe. Nobody wants to hurt me. Nobody's threatening me. I am safe right now in this moment. And through gratitude and appreciation of our body, I then invite you to connect to Mother Earth. I believe Mother Earth is our true mother. One of the things I love to remind people of is that we are always being held. Even when we feel lonely, even when we feel isolated, and so many people right now are feeling lonely and isolated. But even when you're feeling completely alone, to remember that you're actually always being held by your true mother. It's called gravity. And we're always being held by this beautiful blue-green planet that loves us, that nourishes us, that nurtures us. And so by experiencing connection to the earth, celebrating that, appreciating that, it can help us to alleviate the sense of isolation, sense of disconnect. So just appreciating the earth. If you want to see it as your true Pachamama, your big mama, I think that's a beautiful way to see the planet. And recognizing all the ways she's supporting us through the air that we're breathing right now, through the water you're drinking, food you're eating, whatever access or connection you might have to nature. And as we shift gears from appreciation to Mother Earth, I invite you to imagine whatever your connection might be to that which has an infinite number of names. Some call it higher power, God, Source, Jesus, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. Whatever you call it, what is your connection to that which is imagining or creating all of life? I like to call it Father Sky Creator. It's just a name, it's just a way of seeing it. So again, acknowledging our connection to higher power source, to Father Sky Creator. And again, offering gratitude that we actually are alive. We're getting to experience being spiritual beings, and we all are obviously spiritual beings, but we're having a human experience. Wow. Pretty incredible, isn't it? Having this incredible human experience in these animal bodies, nourished by Mother Earth. And again, giving gratitude for whatever your connection to all that is might be. The very last step of this visualization, this prayer, is to put your hand on your heart and feel your heartbeat. I want to acknowledge your beautiful, precious heart. I want to acknowledge your courage, your choice to still love despite whatever wounding, disappointments, hurts that you've experienced in your life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for still being open to loving. And as you feel your heartbeat, I want to give you an invitation. Just go along with me for a moment and imagine that Mother Earth and Father Sky, our true mother, our true father, are making love inside of our hearts right now. And that every heartbeat is a stroke of divine sacred union going on inside your heart. That's how precious your life is. What if your life, your being, is so divinely inspired that Mother Earth and Father Sky are always making love inside of you? from the very first heartbeat into the last. I invite you to embrace your divinity in that way, to imagine it that way. As we open our eyes and come back, hi, good to see you.
That was beautiful.
What goes on for you, Debbie? Anything you want to share that took place for you within that little meditation?
Yeah, it's been a really busy day today, Scott. I mean, today is just, and I've had this great opportunity to just be on the go, go, go. So just now, it felt really good to be able to just drop in and become very present here and really start thinking about what I'm appreciating. And as I look out the window and I see these green leaves blowing on on the trees, and as my puppy crawls up into my lap, and I'm appreciating that, and it really brought the thought of how much I appreciate right now, how much I appreciate you for providing all of the things that you do in this world for us to have such a beautiful life and existence. All the tools you teach us so that my relationships are outstanding. They're not just, struggling, they're actually thriving relationships with my friends and my sons. And it's an amazing experience for me because I came from a space of not ever knowing how to communicate. When I met Scott, everybody, I'm going to tell you something. I was clueless as the day is long. I had decided to stay single, but I had no idea what I needed to do to prepare myself for when I do enter back into a relationship. And then I found Scott. Thank you, Paul McFarland. I love you. And today I'm sitting here experiencing an existence that I all I can tell you is that it works. And you have to try it and give it a shot and see what you think, because that's really about all I can tell you is from my experience, it's working well. And I do blow it too, which is great because I've got Scott here.
Well, we all do. Many
Yeah.
of the tools that I'm teaching, I've been teaching for 20 years, and I'm practicing them because, of course, a good teacher practices what he teaches. And I certainly don't pretend to ever be perfect at it. I make my own tools. I mess up all the time, every day. Obviously, one of the main things I teach is to notice judgmental thinking. And I still have judgmental thoughts all day long. But it's like most of the time I'm able to catch it. Oh, there's a judgment. Underneath my judgment, what's really going on? What's really going on? What am I actually really feeling? What am I longing for? What am I needing? And that's, I guess, the most important tool. It's really a way of going into empathy, and we always obviously love Coach Academy. Empathy or compassion are at the foundation of what we teach. And to access that, most of the time, it does start with the judgmental mind. As human beings, we've been trained to judge. And so usually the judgment comes first, including self-judgment. So that's okay. The judgment comes first. Just don't stay there. It's like, okay, underneath the judgment, what am I actually feeling? What am I actually needing? What am I really longing for? And so I want to just take all of you through a brief little practice to help you experience how to really shift your life in a wonderful way. This is my favorite tool. So, of course, I promise I'm going to give my favorite tools during this time that we have together tonight until we've got about 40 minutes left, a little less than that. This is my favorite tool. So please come along with me. And I want to invite you, including Debbie, who's coming in and out. I love how she pops in and out of reality here. So,
Hey,
Debbie, if you could do this too.
yes.
I want you to pick whatever the most painful thought is you've been running through your mind. And all of you at home, all of you watching, and I want to acknowledge most of the people watching are going to be watching the replay. So thank you. Even if you're live, whether you're watching the replay, whether it's today or a week from now, please do this practice. Pick the most painful thought you've been running through your mind recently. It can be a thought about another person. he doesn't love me, she doesn't respect me. Or it can be a painful thought you run about yourself. I'll never make enough money. I'll never find true love. I'm too fat. I'm too short. I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too that. Pick one. Just one painful thought you've been running. Got it? Got it, Debbie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now again, closing our eyes, I invite you to run that painful thought through your mind 5 or 6 times. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. But believe me, you're going to learn a wonderful tool how to manage those painful thoughts. So as you run that painful thought through your mind, notice, are there any parts of your body that respond? Again, our body informs us. Is there any place where you begin to contract? You begin to feel discomfort as you run that painful thought. So just taking an inventory of how running a painful thought makes you feel. Okay. After you've kind of got inventory clearly, kind of do an inventory there, Debbie?
Mm-hmm.
Was it any particular place in your body where there was discomfort?
Yeah, what's really funny is I came up in a new place, which is the top of my head.
Okay.
I normally get it like in the gut or I'll get it somewhere else, but this time it was just right like up in my head.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Remember, it's all in our head.
Seriously, so apparently my body's saying it. See, it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm saying to myself that I'm too much, I'm too something. Anytime I tell, and I do this, I'll say, I'm too talkative or I'm too much, because that was the story I heard many, many years. In fact, it's always been a story I've heard. I've got too much energy, or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I really felt it up in my head. And I agree, I do have too much energy, but that's not the point.
Okay.
It's not supposed to be a negative here.
Well, let's do the second part of the practice.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing so vulnerably. And I want to acknowledge the vulnerability of, feeling like, hey, you're just being Debbie, and yet people are telling you you're too much. So I want to acknowledge the pain of that. So it's a story. And Debbie's sharing with us vulnerably, and we didn't rehearse this, by the way, this is all spontaneous. But that actually is a perfect lead in to what I'm going to want to ask all of you and Debbie to do, which is to now memorize a phrase. I'm telling myself the story that. So for Debbie, what we're going to do is we're going to ask all of you to a moment, go back and you're going to run that thought again, but you're going to add the phrase, I'm telling myself the story that I'm too much. Or in Debbie's case, I'm telling myself the story that I talk too much. Whatever her exact painful thought was, just add, I'm telling myself the story that. Okay? So I want to invite all of you to do that. So let's close our eyes one more time. And you're to run that painful thought 5 or 6 times, but each time prefacing it with, I'm telling myself this story, I'm too much. I'm telling myself this story, I'll never find love. I'm telling myself the story that I'm too old, whatever it is. Just running that. I'm telling myself this story that. And noticing, again, how your body responds. Does your body respond differently? Does your body give you a different response or a different reaction? Again, once you've done that a few times and taken inventory, you can open your eyes back up. Just, was there a difference? We'll find out from Debbie in a moment, but I want to say I've been teaching this practice for a long time, and I've given it to thousands of people, and about 90% of the time, people notice a difference. And about 75% of the time, they notice a significant difference. Now, I also want to acknowledge that about 10% of the time, people don't notice a difference, and that's okay. But try the practice a few times if you're one of those people that you didn't notice that big a difference right away. Okay. So, Debbie, what happened for you just now?
So about 3 or 4 times around, I started noticing that my shoulders dropped like that, like a it just sort of dropped, and I felt my body relax more. Because if I pay attention, if you guys, I swear to you, if you didn't feel anything, if you really pay attention, you're gonna feel a shift somewhere, and that's where I felt it. It was just like a more like that relief. It's a
Thank you.
relief.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a relief, because
Yeah.
here's the reason this is such an important practice is the majority of the time we are in emotional discomfort. It's not anything real that's actually happening in present time. It's a story that we're running. It might be a painful memory of something that someone said or did, or it might be fear of the future. We're not in present time, right? We're either in the pain of the past or fear of the future. And that's what causes almost all of our discomfort. Now, I want to acknowledge there is maybe 1% of the time that we're actually in present time in a difficult situation. We're having an argument, we're having a fight. There's actually something in present time that's really hurtful and harmful, scary or painful. That happens, but not that often. Really, not that often. But we spend so much time remembering it, reacting to it, playing it over and over and over in our mind, or fear that it's going to happen again, or fear of the future. And so this practice, if you're willing to commit to it, if you are running painful thoughts, notice it, and then practice self-love. Oh, I'm in my story. I'm in my story. Now, the story doesn't mean it's a fiction. Let's say you lost your job and you're economically challenged. Well, it's a fact, you lost your job. But you don't want to get caught up in the story. Or as Debbie so beautifully acknowledged, most of her life, there's been a story running that she's too much, she talks too much. How wonderful that she makes her living talking. Good job there. Good job, right? Right? Take who we are and celebrate it. Right?
Well, actually, there's a story with that too, Scott. I won awards for being too talkative. And I actually took a photo of that and put it next to the report card that I had that said she talks too much, and sent it to my mom and said, so now my mouth makes me money. And no, not in a funny way. That's right. It's such an important thing. That very thing that I would beat myself up for because of the story I'd hear is the very thing that I'm embracing today in the beauty of what it is. So there's this gratitude moment right here, right now, you guys can have with me. I get to the very thing that I'm self-conscious about at times is the very thing that I show up with for everyone. So that's pretty rad, right? You guys see how that shift works? It's so cool.
It's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And so for each of you watching, let's just take a moment and drop in. What's something that is a wounding or fear, something that someone has said to you that's hurtful? And how do you carry that? How is that influencing you? And is there a way that, like Debbie just described, you can take those lemons and make lemonade? So often we give our power away to an authority figure. I often tell this story. There was a couple I was working with, and the issue came up that she was a very attractive woman, and whenever her boyfriend would say, "Honey, you're so beautiful," she'd say, "Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not." And she'd always deflect it. And so, I talked to her a little bit about that, and she said, "Oh, no, I've always known I'm ugly. I've always known that." And she wasn't. She was she was like Debbie. She's a very beautiful woman. And so I did a little bit of work with her, and I slowed her down and had her close her eyes, and did a slight, not really hypnosis session, but just kind of took her back into the wound, took her back through all the different memories where she believed she was ugly, and asked her to find that very first, where she first came to that decision. And all of a sudden, she has this memory that she hadn't consciously thought of in decades. And her memory was being on the playground, being about 7 years old, maybe 6 or 7. She was little. She was on the playground at school, and there was this freckle-faced, red-haired boy looking at her going, "You're ugly. Do you know how ugly you are?" And he was a couple of years older than her. And so in her little 6 or 7-year-old mind, he was an authority figure because he was an older boy telling her, "You're ugly. Do you know how ugly you are?" Now, from our perspective, it's a kind of an obnoxious little 9-year-old kid being cruel to a younger child. But that cruelty from this kid, she had no idea what his name was. She just could see his face. Freckle-faced, red-haired. I'm sorry for anybody who might be freckle-faced or red-haired. We're just talking about that little kid. But he was an authority figure. And it got into her brain in that way. And so we liberated it. And now she's able to receive from her boyfriend or from, hopefully, when she looks in the mirror, that she's beautiful.
Wow. You know, Scott, I actually had this happen, and I've had this same thing my whole life. Like, even when you just said that, I'm like, wow, because it's not, man, it's a tough one for me. I remember that happening. I was really, really tall. My granddaughter's like freaking 5 feet tall already. She's 7. She's like, I was like that. But same stuff. I had somebody contact me through classmates years ago. And you know what? He sends me a message and he says to me, "I am so sorry for how mean I was to you."
Wow.
I don't remember the exact incident, but I remember that happening. And I thought to myself, wow, I just kind of pushed all that out of my head, but this conversation you're having brought it up again, brought up that insecurity. I was always bigger than all the other girls. They were all small and petite. I had these huge hands. You know, now I put fingernails on so they're really long, you know, because they are already really long. These are things that are so true, though. Like, I wouldn't even get in front of the camera 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Wouldn't even go on camera. Was absolutely, it is possible to change how that you feel inside about yourself when you practice these tools. I guess is really this point. You know, I'm walking proof of that. So I don't feel the same way today, but it definitely brought that trigger up and let me observe that for a minute.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to often tell people, and since you're watching, congratulations. How would you like to know what the meaning of life is? Well, I truly, honestly believe the meaning of life, and it's what we're talking about today, is we're here to learn to love, starting with ourselves. And so Debbie's learning to love herself despite her beautiful physical size. And I'm learning to love myself as I'm aging. And we all are learning to love ourselves in whatever it is, whatever challenge we're facing. And what's interesting, and I talk a lot about this, is that I did a lot of documentaries on near-death experiences. And there is this incredible phenomena that every single person researched, and I worked with a researcher who had researched over 300 cases of legitimate near-death experiences. And when people remember or are shown or see the meaning of their life, it's always, I'm here to learn to love, starting with myself. And so many of the tools that Debbie and I teach and we share in Love Coach Academy and through Spirituality, it's all about how can we learn to love ourselves. And self-love is not selfish. We're not talking about egocentric or narcissistic behavior. We're talking about genuine self-love, because when we really love ourselves, see, a person who's narcissistic doesn't love themselves. That's the problem. They're lacking self-esteem. They're lacking us, so they are desperately seeking the outside world to fill a gaping hole. But when we really love ourselves and we have a strong foundation of self-acceptance and self-compassion and connection to the earth, to the heavens, whatever you want to call it, God's source, when we are safe and secure within that, we actually don't need to be self-centered in our actions. We don't need to be narcissistic. We're not this monster grabbing from the outside world to try and fill a hole, but rather our cup is full. And from that full cup, what do we want to do? We want to share with others. When our cup is full, we want to love other people. We want to contribute to the well-being of other people, which then makes us genuinely, authentically attractive, because we're coming from a beautiful place. We're coming from a place of love, as opposed to that grasping energy.
Totally, that needy stuff. Well, I mean, that's what it is when we feel. So imagine you've got a cup and you're giving from what's inside of it. What's going to happen at some point is it's completely empty. So what Scott just said is probably one of the most valuable tools you'll ever hear, is that you give from what's overflowing. You do not give from what's inside, because if you give from in there, you're depleting yourself, and that's where that you get to really start practicing self-nurturing and self-care. That is self-love. Caring about yourself enough to know that right now I might need 15 minutes to go stand in the sun and soak in the earth. And I'm just going to do that. No one's going to die because I'm doing it. You know, this thing, I just don't have time because I'm late. I'm very, very late. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, no. It is more like if you don't, you're going to be very, very, very late to your own funeral. And that's just how it is. Sorry. You know, that's brutally honest. You matter so much. You matter so much that it's time for you to do this a little bit differently. And that's what the cool part about all this is. You get to make a choice.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is so important, so true. Is we want to learn how to really be at choice in our life, to really be at choice, and that's a lot of the tools that we teach. And I guess this might be a good time to bring up the 12 adjustments, if you'd be willing, or get ready to bring them up.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I love about the 12 adjustments. Almost all disconnection in relationship comes when we perceive that we're being judged, blamed, shamed, criticized, made wrong. Those variations of those experiences is where we go from seeing someone and feeling safe with them to feeling threatened. And just quickly, I'll ask you, how many of you watching have had the experience where you meet somebody, you go into a relationship, it feels great. Maybe it's a love relationship and you're looking into each other's eyes and you're just seeing how beautiful they are and they're seeing how beautiful you are, and perhaps you're even making love. Maybe you even made babies with this person. It just felt so good. And then something happens and time goes by. You don't even look that person in the eye anymore, and then more time goes by. And you don't even want to be in the same room with that person. Time goes by and you're completely separated. You can't be around that person at all anymore. Have you had that experience? I have. When I ask that question, most everybody raises their hand if it's at a workshop. Says, yeah, I've had that experience. What happened? What changed? What changed was our perception. We went from being seen as the beautiful beings that we are to being judged, criticized, blamed, shamed, made wrong. And as that happened, we put up more and more walls and we defended ourselves. And the more we defended ourselves, the more the other person felt attacked. Because whenever we're defending ourselves, it creates separation. And so we went from two beautiful spiritual beings having a human experience loving each other to two raging reptiles. We were both like, right, in this place with each other, because when we perceive the possibility of attack, our reptile brain takes over. We go into reaction to protect ourselves. That's what happened.
Yep.
So we're going to very briefly, because we've only got about 15 minutes left, we're going to very briefly I want to introduce you to something called the 12 adjustments. And Debbie, I don't know if you have the ability to make it a little bit larger.
I
do you have the ability to zoom in?
Not, no? I don't know.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Anybody who is interested if you give us your email address, I'll send you this, and I'm going to send you a pair of videos where we go into how to really work with the 12 adjustments, but I'll talk about it now. And hopefully you all can see it a little bit. On the left-hand side are 12 common experiences that we have. I'll read them. It's the experience of resistance, make wrong, judgment, guilt, blame, shame, criticism, comparison or jealousy, the reactive mind, grasping, deception, we could also say dishonesty, and being a victim. Now, those are 12 experiences of life, and probably all of us have had every one of those experiences. When we're in that experience, when we're in that field of energy, we're in pain or we're in fear. We're in reptile brain. And remember, when we're in reptile brain, when we've been abducted by our reptile brain, we have very limited choice. Earlier we were talking about choice. We have very limited choice in reptile brain. We can only choose fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fight is pretty obvious. We fight usually with words. Flight is usually some form of disassociation. We disassociate. We disconnect. And maybe, Debbie, you can go ahead and take down, because what happens is that, peekaboo, I see you. There I am. So when we're in that reactive place, we fight, flight, or freeze. So that's kind of like deer in the headlights. And fawn is when we just surrender, we give up. We ass kiss, we people please, hoping to get some love. None of those are experiences that feel good. None of those, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, are experiences that foster healthy relationship. And remember that life is relationship. When our relationships are going well, we're pretty happy. When our relationships are not going well, we're unhappy. So if you want to change the world, start by changing yourself. I think we all know that. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change your relationships. And so the 12 adjustments is a very simple way to change our relationships. Because all those words on the left-hand side, the red words or the red experiences, are what put us into separation, into disconnect. They're habits. They're not our nature. It's not who we truly are. They're who we've become as a reaction to the world. You know, if you want to get a sense of who we really are, think about an infant. You know, before an infant has been programmed, an infant just is constantly in their feelings and their needs, right? And an infant can go from, doggy, oh, baba, in about a second, right? They can go from crying to happy because they're just so in the present. They have a need that's not being met, they cry. They have a need that is being met, they're happy. That's who we are. That's who we really are. We learned how to judge. We learned how to shame. You know, I say, again, go back to an infant can keep its parents up all night long. It has no guilt. It has no shame. It can make one heck of a mess out of multiple orifices, stuff coming out. It has no shame till it learns shame, until we learn guilt, until we learn shame, until we're told that we're bad, we're stupid, we're wrong. And then we start telling other people that they're bad, that they're stupid, that they're wrong. So in the 12 adjustments, we recognize that, when I'm judging another person or myself, when I'm in guilt, when I am in criticism or make wrong, it's a habit. It's a habit I've picked up. And what we do, and in order to change our life, we replace the life alienating habits with life affirming habits. Now, all of us have changed our habit. Maybe you went from eating junk food to eating healthy food. You realize that, the junk food kind of tastes good in the mouth, and it was inexpensive, it was cheap. But then once it hit your stomach, you felt tired, you didn't feel good. You realized that the negative consequences were outweighing the good. Same thing if you've changed your relationship to any kind of a substance, smoking or alcohol or drugs, or maybe even if you changed your relationship to people. Maybe you realized there were certain friends or people you were hanging around with who were actually having a more negative influence on your life than a positive influence. We all have had some experience like that. We're changing our habits. In the 12 adjustments, we recognize that we start to identify when we're in blame, shame, judgment, criticism, victim, any of those, jealousy. And it's all perfectly human. It's not because you're bad or stupid or wrong that you're in that habit. It's a habit. Okay? And we all have the discipline to change a habit. How do we do it? Just 2 steps. We recognize that the hurtful consequences of the habit outweigh the good. So we want to change the habit. You got to want to change it. And then we usually replace what's not so healthy or good for us with a healthier choice. In the 12 adjustments, we have 12 really healthy choices. Compassion, acceptance, curiosity. I love curiosity.
I love that one.
So important. Tell us about
I
how
go along with it.
Tell us how curiosity supports you.
Curiosity is my favorite because when I feel something coming up and I get irritated at anyone or anything, then I get curious with myself as to what's going on inside of me. That's happening because I know it's internal. But then also I think about if somebody else is having a tough time, what must be real for them? What must be real for them right now? And that right there is a key to our relationships when you start when you care about what is real for another human in their existence and accept that their reality is their reality, their right to have it, their respect them to have it, because that's huge. Everyone deserves their own opportunity to have their perspective on however they choose to see it, even if it sounds like it's bat crazy to you. You know, it's serious. It's probably the greatest respects you can give a human being is to allow them to have their belief system and to accept them as they are and don't try to change them, but rather meet them and be curious about what makes them tick and about why they have perspectives. And I know in my own life, like, look, I could have one thought today or believe one thing today, and tomorrow I might wake up and believe something totally different. But that is our right as a human being, and so when we allow others that right as well, it's an extraordinary experience. We're gonna be coming to an end, though, here because I have another live in just a few minutes that I'm going to need to jump on, and I definitely wanna play something really special for you guys, right after Scott says, because I see he's brewing something brilliant right now, I can see it.
No, just want to, as we wrap up, just want to acknowledge that if you'd like to really learn more about how to do the 12 adjustments, you've got 2 choices. You can give us your email address and we'll send you the document, and we'll also send you a training that I did. It's short, it's a class that I led. Or you can come to a class that we're doing this Saturday at 10 o'clock Pacific time. It's a class that's normally just for people that have paid for the class, but we're opening it up this Saturday, and that's at 10 o'clock Pacific time. We're opening it up this week only. But again, send us your email address and we'll send you the video, the 12 adjustments, and the invitation to the class. And thank you all for watching. I again recognize most people are going to watch the replay, and I like to go back and take a look at who wrote in the chat box and any thoughts, questions, comments. So I'll go back and take a look. And thank you, Debbie G, for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our streaming partners for carrying this. And also, on Saturday night, many of you hopefully are already watching, but if you don't know, Saturday Night Alive, it's now SNA, Saturday Night Alive, for the Global Peace Tribe, is every Saturday night where we have this amazing inspirational variety show with incredible musicians, incredible speakers. We've had Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Greg Braden, many, many, many. And this Saturday night, we've got amazing musicians. Olax, they're finalists in America's Got Talent, and they're from Siberia. I will tease you.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
They
That's
are
going to be
way cool. They're right up your alley, Debbie G. We've got the Sonic Butterfly, who's going to do an amazing performance. And we've got all these speakers who are experts in the field of extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs, all about how to prepare for your own personal contact. So join us on Saturday night. Saturday morning, Relationship Essentials. Saturday night is the big show. So hopefully we'll see all of you there. Thanks again, Debbie G. And I think you do have a video you're going to play.
I do. So you guys, we've got a great audience. You guys check this out, okay?
Are your relationships driving you crazy? Are you experiencing rough challenges with family? Miscommunication with your friends? Upsets with the people you work with? What about your romantic love? Is the tension too much? Are you single and missing love? Are you feeling lonely and wanting understanding? Are there threats to break up? Is there too much pain? Does any of this sound familiar? There is hope. There are solutions. There are simple and effective communication tools. Experience compassionate connections. Bring happiness back to the family. Don't suffer any longer. Learn simple tools that work to transform relationships. We are happiest when our relationships are thriving. We've helped thousands of individuals, couples, and families back into harmony. Learn more at lovecoachacademy.com.
Thank you guys so very much. And I just have to show this. We love you too, sweetheart. We love you too.
Thank you,
You are
Diane.
absolutely rock stars. So, guys, right here is lovecoachacademy.com. That's how you book with any love coach, and you get a free 15-minute session with one of us if you would like to. So please definitely go down here to that website. And in 5 minutes, please join me again for Drama to Dharma with Josie Herndon. And tonight we're going to have messages from Archangel Gabriel. Okay? And we'll see you all on Saturday morning, bright and early.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Namaste.